Dragon Ball fans and everyone else looking forward to Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Ever since we got the full roster reveal for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and with us being just days away from the game dropping, a lot of people seem to be a bit negative. Some are not negative, some are just, discussing, but in particular, they're talking about characters that didn't make the base roster. Characters that should have been in the base roster. And for me personally, I'm more than happy with the roster that we've got. In fact, it exceeded my expectations. But with that said, I'd be lying if I said there weren't some characters that I do wish were in the base roster. And many of them I hope we get as DLC, and I really do think we will. So that's why I'm here to discuss the top 5 characters that we should have got in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero that we didn't get. Many of which could be DLC. And just a quick disclaimer, I'm not including obvious DLC content, and I'm definitely not including manga content either, because that will probably be DLC once it gets animated. So no Ultra Ego, no Moro, no Granola, and no Black Frieza. But with that said, I'm your boy Kaizen. Like and subscribe, please do hit those buttons down below. I'm really trying to hit 1k this year, help me out. And with that said, I'm your boy Kaizen, let's get straight into it. So before I give my top 5 list, I just want to give some honorable mentions for characters that I think aren't that deep if they're in the game or not, whether they're DLC or base roster or anything, even free updates, although we could get them as free updates, but characters that people do wish were in the game, especially some of the OG fans from Tenkaichi 3. Starting with Garlic Jr., his base form, Tambourine from OG Dragon Ball, and with him, he'd play a major role in a DLC for OG Dragon Ball, especially if they introduce story content for OG Dragon Ball DLC, because he killed Krillin, and obviously that's a major plot point in the story for Goku's development, all of that, so he'd be a great character. Also Kid Chi-Chi, she's not I don't think she'd be that popular to play as, but just the role that she played obviously is Chi-Chi, Goku's wife. She'd just be fun, a fun addition to the game, especially since Kid Goku's in the game, or Teen Goku I guess. Also Fasha from Bardock's team, she seems to be quite popular. I see a lot of people are very upset about her not being in the game. That kind of surprised me, but the OG fans, they love her, and she's cool of course. Bardock's whole crew was cool. You could really say Bardock's entire crew. Also King Vegeta, it's Vegeta's dad, and obviously we had some cool shots of him blowing up solar systems and whatnot. He's the king of the Saiyans, so he'd be a cool add-on in the future. Also Zangia, or I think that's how you say it, Zangia. She was Bojack's teammate. I'm pretty sure he sacrificed her for absolutely no reason. She got done dirty in that movie, but she was throwing hands early in that movie. She was cool, she has a cool design, and I think people just want to see more female characters in a Dragon Ball game, And that's not to say there aren't enough female characters, it's to say there are plenty of female fighting characters in Dragon Ball that could be in this game, like her, and like Kid Chi-Chi. And another one would be Ariel, or whatever, and she'd be a great tribute to just Toriyama, it's one of his original works. She's been in plenty of Dragon Ball collabs, from games to the show itself, even in Dragon Ball Super, so she'd be a fun gag character. There's already gag characters in the game like Hercule and Yajirobe, so why not her? They could make her overpowered if they really choose to. And last but not least, I can't remember if I said this, Garlic Jr.'s base form. Personally, I don't see the need for him because we got Super Garlic Jr., although they should have made that a separate form, I guess. Oh, and how could I forget the GOAT himself, Raspberry. He's in, for some reason, every Dragon Ball game, and I don't even get why he's named. We don't need him because we got Frieza Soldier, which is quite funny, but I guess he'd be a free, fun free DLC or whatever, a free add-on. But now, I want to get into my top 5. Oh, and how could I forget one other honorable mention that very nearly made this list. In fact, I would put it at number 6, and that's General Blue, because he was a major player in the OG Dragon Ball series. In fact, he was one of Goku's biggest rivals or opponents or whatever that represented the Red Ribbon Army, so I gotta put him there as well. Oh, and if you are still watching, another very quick reminder, please do subscribe down below, it helps me out greatly. But with that said, let's get straight to it. Coming in at number 5. Now, I was very stuck between 3 characters for number 5. Honestly, a lot of this list, other than the top 2, you could just swap around. But at number 5, I personally decided to go with Great Saiyaman 2. Now, I was genuinely more upset by her not being in the main roster than I thought I'd be, because we have Great Saiyaman. She'd be such a perfect duo character, especially for you guys with girlfriends and wives and whatnot. Imagine playing as a duo, you play as Great Saiyaman and she plays as Great Saiyaman 2, and obviously if you're a girl, the opposite way around. That would be cool, no? And even if you're a guy, you'd want to play as her as well. Personally, I know a lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings about it, but for me personally, that whole Great Saiyaman arc, the high school arc or whatnot, I loved it, especially after the seriousness of the Cell Saga. And I just love their dynamic of being superheroes and her just joining in. Going from being suspicious of him to just straight up joining in. And I know she doesn't join in straight away, but just seeing her later on like fighting alongside him and their matching outfits. Sometimes he didn't even wear the helmet, he wore like the turban and the sunglasses, and she wore the helmet, and their poses were just really cool. I really hope that she brings it back in like Dragon Ball Super when the anime or the manga comes back. Whether it's her like backing up Gohan for an unserious crime, like solving a crime, or if it's just her protecting Pan from some thugs. I could really see her like getting involved in the action, like if some thugs trying to attack Pan and she just beats them up and reminds people who she is. She's Great Saiyan Man too. But yeah, that's my number 5 pick. Now at number 4, I was still stuck between 2 characters, but I decided to go with Pikkon. Now the reason I decided to put him at number 4 and not number 3 is because at the end of the day, no matter how cool he is and how many fights he's been in, and how convinced we were that he was a canon character back in the day, even seeing him in the Fusion Reborn movie, he is still a filler character at the end of the day, which still baffles my mind to this day, by the way. Like, you could have told anyone he's a canon character, like the way he's involved in the show. Goku goes Super Saiyan 2 against him and was really holding his own, and he's still there. And I'm pretty sure he had multiple fights in the Buu Saga too. Like, didn't he fight like Yamcha and Kid Buu himself? He's a strong character, he played many parts. Even if they weren't canon, he was still there. Like, he wasn't even forgettable, which is ironic because he's not in Super, and I've never seen anyone talk about him not being in Super, but I still don't consider him forgettable. Like, the man held off Janemba. He had no business doing that, but he did it anyway. So that's why I have him at number 4. Also, his design is kind of cool as well. Okay, now is where it gets serious, because now we're entering the top 3. And honestly, a lot of these could have been swapped around. Like, this was a very hard decision, especially the top 2. In fact, to be honest, I couldn't even pick between 3 characters, so I kind of cheated. Hear me out. At number 3, I got a tie, because they kind of come as a pair, you know, they're brothers. And that is Ice Shenron and Nova Shenron. Now, these guys were like big bad guys in Dragon Ball GT. And like I said, I feel like GT will be DLC, so I do feel like we will get them in the future in like a story GT pack with some other characters, some of which I'm going to talk about later, you probably know already. And I just feel like you can't have one of these guys without the other, like they're brothers. I honestly used to just get them confused a lot when I was younger. I still do. I know it's like the 3-star ball and the 4-star ball, but they had great moments in the show, and I can't remember which of the brothers it was. I think it was Nova Shenron that got like destroyed by Goku while he was blinded or something like that. I don't remember if it was a Dragon Fist or what, but that was just an ice cold moment for Goku. And even though they lost, like, they still contributed to that part of the story. And they're very strong characters, of course, with cool designs. Pretty much all GT designs had really like cool edgy character designs. Some of them were a bit like dark, but that's kind of like how GT was. And yeah, I just felt like those two had to come as a package, like they were a pair. So that's number 3, 2 in 1. Next we go into number 2. Now I'm not gonna lie, the number 1 and number 2 slot was so hard to pick between. In fact, it's probably gonna cause debate. Like, I know a lot of the OG fans especially, in fact both of them have OG fans, but like one in particular has the real OG fans and one is canon. But first let's go into number 2, and I've decided after very difficult decision making that I've got Demon King Piccolo. That's my number 2 slot. I honestly think he's like one of the most iconic and important parts of Dragon Ball, iconic characters and important to like Dragon Ball history. And I mean, they literally showed Teen Goku, the version of him that beats Demon King Piccolo with that ultimate attack that he uses in the game. So how could we not have him? In fact, didn't they show him like his character model? That was quite weird. I feel like he's like just a must. He's like almost a given like as a future DLC, because as long as this game is successful, which is almost guaranteed at this point, we're gonna get more DLC other than the 2 guaranteed DLCs, and he's a must-have DLC character that fits so perfectly as DLC because the only OG character we're really getting is GT Goku. So any of those OG characters, oh sorry, did I say GT Goku? I meant OG Goku. Any of those OG characters can be DLC in one big DLC pack. General Blue, Tao Pai Pai, all of those guys. I don't remember if I mentioned Tao Pai Pai earlier, but he's also an obvious DLC choice, or sorry, honorable mention. Him, and you can add like Mercenary Tao as like an alternate costume. Honestly, all those OG characters, like villains and even the heroes, could just be one pack. And are characters that I'd like to see in the game, of course. But that's it for number 2. Now going on to number 1, this is where it got very difficult, but I ultimately went with this decision because I feel like I heard the most uproar online about him. Coming in at number 1, a villain that gets mixed feelings from fans, including myself to be honest, and after a self-proclamation, he apparently can't be beat. So that would be interesting to see in the game, and I'm obviously talking about Super 17. You know, nobody can beat him when he's Super 17. I feel like he's just such an obvious gap in the GT cast in this game. Like, even watching the trailer, it almost felt like he was supposed to be in that GT trailer. It literally felt like they directly skipped him. In fact, they could have easily like cut out normal Boo, base Boo. I don't remember if base Boo is in the game. My mind's gone blank right now, it's late night. But they could have easily cut him out and just added Super 17. They could have definitely cut out Kid GT Pan. So just with the war that he had with Super Saiyan 4 Goku, obviously that fight didn't have to be as difficult as it was. Like, I'm pretty sure Goku made him stronger by giving him energy to absorb and then figuring out how to beat him. That's why I feel like he wasn't that impressive of a villain, even though he is strong. And honestly, I've never cared about him like that. But at the same time, like, you don't realize how cool something is until you're told you can't have it. Like, there are many characters in this game, like the Frieza Soldier, Cyberman, that I would obviously sacrifice for this character. And let's not act like he's not a character that we'd all use at some point, even if it's just to face him. So that's why I feel like he's the obvious number 1 slot. And yeah, that does conclude my top 5, but there's obviously going to be a lot of different opinions, whether it's in the comments or just online in general. And I understand, to be honest, like, I definitely missed out a few as well, like Supreme Kai. I feel like Supreme Kai is someone that, yeah, he's an honorable mention, but he's someone I just feel like should have definitely been in the game, but not to the point like I want to put him in this list. I feel like it was almost stupid for him to not be there because his character model was literally there. So I feel like he's going to be a free DLC, or maybe they just thought like he wasn't cool enough, which is weird. Even if it's just his base form, or if they add his fusion in the future, I feel like that should be for free. But he wasn't cool enough to make the top 5 in my opinion, honestly. That's just me though. Like, you guys could disagree. Let me know if you feel like he should be in the game. And obviously there's a bunch of different OG characters and some other like Shadow Dragons from GT, OG characters like that Devilman guy and all those others. I think I also saw people complaining that coolers like Goons weren't in the game. Also there's Grandpa Gohan, I mean, for nostalgia and because he was in Tenkaichi 3, maybe people would want him as well. So do drop your top 5 in the comments below. Obviously you might want more than 5, but try and give me your top 5 list in order, you know. And since you're going to comment down below, don't forget to like and subscribe. Seriously, I'm trying to hit 1k this year, preferably before the end of October, which will be difficult, but you can help me out for free by pressing the subscribe button down below and joining me on my journey. And checking out my videos on screen now. I do videos on Bleach Rebirth for Souls and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So do check out my other videos, do subscribe and like the video, it helps a lot. Also follow my Twitter in the description below. And with that said, I've been your boy Kaizen, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.